This is CityCast Seattle. I'm Jane C. Hu, and here's what Seattle's talking about. A threat to the Grand in Tacoma temporarily closed the movie theater. What does this mean for the future of moviegoing? And a state capital gains tax is bringing in way more than economists initially anticipated, providing an interesting look at the state of Washington's economy. But first, and maybe relatedly to that, it's hot strike summer? Over the last few months, we've heard about workers organizing across sectors, from grocery stores and outdoor retailers to healthcare workers and nightlife security. And last Thursday, workers from two businesses, Embassy Suites, which is owned by Hilton, and the Ballard restaurant Walrus and the Carpenter, announced their strikes. Here to discuss, we have Chase Hutchinson, journalist, critic, and host of Seattle Movies Daily. Hi, Chase.
Hello, Jane.
And we have Harry Cheadle, journalist, contributor at The Stranger, and writer of our new newsletter, Keep It Local. Welcome to the show, Harry.
Thanks, Jane. Pleasure to be here.
So workers from the picket lines visited one another, which I thought was kind of a sweet move in worker solidarity. But Harry, I know you've been covering this for The Stranger. What are workers from each of these businesses asking for?
In both cases, it's primarily about wages. With the workers at the Embassy Suites, they want a higher hourly wage, and they also want to be notified if ICE or DHS shows up on the hotel property. This is top of mind for them because they're a majority immigrant workforce, and because with the World Cup in town, there's a lot of federal law enforcement just kind of.
Yeah, I remember when it was initially announced that for World Cup security, ICE was going to be brought in, people really were concerned about that and its impact here in Seattle. Have we seen much of that yet?
I was trying to chase this fact down when I was writing up a little story for The Stranger, and it was really confusing about what the ICE presence would be and if they're actually. So I don't know if you guys know. I'd love to hear it.
I have not seen any specific instances, and I think it's important that unless we were to see something reported, we would want to not cause any sort of panic or concern, because that was a point of concern that during the World Cup that would be used as an opportunity to target people, which is just a bad vibe. The celebrations have already been great. The idea of people coming into the country and having to be concerned about that is not great, including the players. There have been the one referee that was high level just until recently. The Iranian team, I believe, wasn't even really able to fully travel in. And I think they're playing this week on Friday. But I have not seen anything specific. But obviously, this is a point of concern for workers.
How has Embassy Suites been faring in the midst of all of this? There are workers going on strike on Thursday as we're really kind of reaching the peak of World Cup craziness here. I mean, I know Paris Hilton was also in town, which I thought was kind of an interesting move.
Coincidentally, or is she working at the hotel? I don't know, because they're still open. I think they've brought in temporary workers.
Right. So I know that also happened at the Walrus and Carpenter. The restaurant opened with some non-union employees, and then they actually closed on Monday night and posted on Instagram claiming that guests who were trying to go to the restaurant were being harassed by people outside of the restaurant. I think that there's this contrast between these two strikes that's kind of interesting, in that you have, like you said, Harry, a primarily immigrant-led group here at the Embassy Suites. Walrus and Carpenter, it seems like, based on some of the stats that the restaurant just released, are maybe in a slightly different situation with their wages. And I'm curious what you all have seen about this and how you're thinking about it.
I think what you're referring to is the restaurant group that owns its Sea Creatures put out a big statement talking about, we instituted this change to a service charge model because we were in some financial trouble, and these workers are striking and they're saying really nasty things about us online. Here is what our workers make. And they posted anonymized compensation from 2025 of some of their workers. And it was one bartender was made $90,000 in a year. And I think the implication is we're taking care of our employees, like our compensation is like good for the service industry, trying to put some numbers to that. But also, like, as someone who's been part of a union before, like, you're allowed to join a union and unionize and strike, even if like you have like good wages, even if you're not like at the poverty line. The most famous unionized workers in America are professional athletes, and they make a lot of money. So they're allowed to strike and unionize if they think they're not being paid what they're worth.
The only thing I was going to add, because Harry, you've done a lot of great reporting, but I had also read the good reporting in the Seattle Times about the initial closure and what you had brought up, Jane, about harassment. And then it was that Sea Creatures management said they're not giving any interviews. I think there needs to be a lot more digging into some of these questions, because these are serious allegations to make, but it's shifted a little bit. Initially, it was harassment, name calling, and spitting, which made it sound plural. And then this became reports from guest employees and in one instance, spitting. And I think if you're going to make a claim like that, you need to back it up a little bit more, or be willing to answer some questions. As for the broader kind of conversation around where this all began, Harry, I'd really liked your piece in Eater when this first began about the explanation of a service charge, because I was initially confused about why you would do this, because that seems to be the point of contention where everything was going mostly well and that the relationship between staff and management was going well. And it feels like it's a confusing thing where if you look on the bill, it will say the restaurant retains 100% of the service charge, but that doesn't mean it goes to the staff necessarily. I believe that's correct.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that language is, part of it is like they just don't want to get sued. And if you specify how much goes to staff, you open yourself up for lawsuits.
You shortchange on that after saying you would, then you're in trouble.
Yeah, then you can be sued. And that's happened in Seattle. It's happened in other cities too.
I think it happened at Canlis.
Yeah, it happened at Canlis. It happened at Tom Douglas's restaurants years ago. Happened at Skillet, if anyone remembers Skillet.
Skillet.
But, you say things were going well in one sense, but I think they were losing money at Walrus. So that was why they needed to change things up. And
service charge at Sea Creatures restaurants is 22%. It's just on your bill. How does that change affect employees, and why do they not prefer this over tipping, it seems like?
So there's like a dispute about this. Like, the union told me that at least some of the workers were being paid less than they were when they were, because they were all pooling tips. So it wasn't like you only make tips when your table tips. And I think that the tip pool was also shared by back of house staff. And they say, a lot of us were seeing less money. And then management disputes that. And there's, like dueling spreadsheets and stuff. And, we don't really know how that works. But they just say they don't earn as much money as they used to.
So Sea Creatures management released these details about how they compensate employees. They also released a spreadsheet with their finances. What does this move represent? And I don't know if you all had a chance to look at those numbers, but I'm curious if you all were surprised by anything there or thought there were any particularly interesting parts to highlight here.
I was surprised that, because this doesn't feel like a common occurrence. Usually, speaking from kind of having been involved in union negotiations, getting information out of management can be very difficult. And this being made public is not something I typically see. And it certainly seems like them trying to control a sort of narrative in a sense. But I was interested and ended up having a lot more questions. And it's why, again, I think it's unfortunate they're not doing more interviews about some of the conversations around bonuses, because those end up becoming part of the picture too. And I did speak with some of the union, and they know that margins are tight and that restaurants are often operating on very thin margins. But does this then become part of the conversation as well? That was one of the things that always just jumped out to me a little bit. I do think there are many follow-up questions about releasing this type of information. I think another local publication had flagged that there was like $1.1 million that was just uncategorized.
That's what I saw in this budget spreadsheet and had questions about, because it waffles from negative $72 some months to one month it was $170,000. And that's a very broad category, uncategorized expense. that,
and there could be some sort of explanation for that we just don't know. But that's, again, where a follow-up question would be valuable.
100%. Harry, what has stood out to you about this?
Like Chase said, it's a lot of transparency and a lot more transparency than you would expect. I think what can happen in these situations is management doesn't want to talk to the press that much because they're just trying to get through the negotiation process. And the union is kind of out there, like I'm just speaking generally, the union can just be out there kind of controlling the narrative and, saying what they want and demonstrating and being on the picket line. And I think a lot of times management just kind of curls up and takes it and then just tries to get through it without making a big splash. And I think that maybe after the strike and the picket line and some of the attention that they've been getting on social media, like I saw Kashama Sawant showed up at the picket line, I think maybe management feels motivated to push back a little bit or like get their own narrative out there, not just kind of wait for this to blow over.
So what's next? Have we heard anything from either union, either the Embassy Suites workers or the Walrus and Carpenter workers, about what might happen next here?
The only thing I would say, because I don't know about the Embassy Suites folks, but I did talk to the Sea Creatures union folks. I believe they're bargaining right now, that it's the first time they've bargained since the strike began. So by the time people are listening to this, things could have changed. It seems like they're maybe closer together than some of this may seem, because currently they're on a ULP strike. But ULP is an unfair labor practice that they feel like the management is not bargaining in good faith. And I believe they've had sort of other ULPs that they've raised, but in this case, this is the first time that they have gone on strike. But again, bargaining is happening now. Things could move, and that it could feel like everyone has gotten their perspective out there, and maybe they come back to the table and there's a breakthrough. Who knows? I like to live on the optimistic side sometimes.
Yeah, I think both management and the union have said that they were really close on a deal, and the union has said that too. I think there's a little bit of different narratives about like when they were close and like whose fault it was that negotiations like didn't conclude then. But yeah, just to reference to unfair labor practices in relation to the rule that even if you don't have a contract and you're a unionized workplace, management they can't change things about working conditions without consulting the union. And the union has said that management has changed a bunch of working conditions without consulting them. And so that's what their chief complaint is about.
And what about Embassy Suites?
I haven't heard anything specific about that. I think they are. The last time I spoke with the union when they had just voted to authorize the strike, they said they didn't have any bargaining sessions scheduled, but that might have changed. So I assume they're going to, negotiate and try to figure that out.
Okay. Well, life comes at you fast. Who knows what might change in the next 24 hours here? But let's move on for now. And when we come back, we're going to talk about what is going on with the Grand Cinema in Tacoma. Last weekend, the Grand Cinema in Tacoma closed after receiving a threat. Chase, you are our resident Tacoman and our resident arts reporter, so double whammy, you are on the clock for explaining this to us here. What happened with that?
The situation is that they received a threat over the phone Saturday evening, immediately contacted TPD, were recommended to have them do a walkthrough, decided on Sunday to close on Father's Day, which meant no Terminator 2 Father's Day screening.
No!
But they're bringing it back this Sunday.
Oh, dang. Am I going to have to drive down to Tacoma and see T2 in theaters? Okay.
Let's do it. I was thinking before when you talked to the new Crocodile owner that you're basically Seattle's dad. So this will be a Father's Day celebration for you. But as of this week, they have fully reopened. They are putting restrictions on bags and are still kind of approaching things cautiously, but it, for the most part, has been a positive story that I want to focus on, and that the community has rallied around them, are offering support. I've heard there's been a bump in donations to support them because they've been kind of a staple here for as long as I've lived here, and certainly longer, and so people really wanted to rally around and support them.
I haven't been to this theater, and I don't know anything about it because I don't go down to Tacoma very much. What's the deal with this place? Why is it so beloved?
I mean, they show great stuff, I would say. And I should disclose I was an intern there back in college. They have really great popcorn and just a good vibe. They have like a downstairs area where you can just chill between movies. They're kind of a community living room in a sense for Tacoma. There are other movie theaters, but this is the independent, very like thoughtfully programmed theater where they have those bigger movies, but also those smaller indie horrors, those kind of repertory screenings like T2. And then there are also Tuesday screening series. It's a place that people really feel like they can go and experience movies that they couldn't anywhere else. And so this rattled people a little bit, but for the most part, everyone has felt like, okay, we have weathered the storm. We are getting through this together. And hopefully everyone will be able to look back in this and say, okay, we got through it.
I know that the Grand is trying to take some safety precautions currently. I believe they're checking bags. Is that the future of movie going? Or is this just going to be what we have to do to go see a movie now? Does it make you all feel safer if there is some kind of safety checkpoint?
I kind of feel in the middle about it, where it's this bigger situation that I don't think any one thing could change it. But if it for that week, everyone wants to kind of circle the wagons and say, hey, we just do this extra added step, I think that would be fine. I don't know if then it becomes like concerts where you have to have the see-through bags or like do the long checks. I don't anticipate that would become the norm for lots of theaters. I know people would be sad that they can't sneak their snacks in, probably, if that were to happen.
That's where my mind went.
Yeah. But I don't know. It is a conversation to be had, because I have been at more festivals and things where every bag is checked, and where you have to open it up and it makes the lines very long. But that's, again, the trade-off.
I've also been at a lot of events where the bags are theoretically checked, but it's like, is this security theater or is it security?
That's a question that has many different probably perspectives on it, because there are just no 100% ways to be safe all the time unless more systemic action were to be taken on a top level. And so individual theaters or venues kind of having to piecemeal respond to things, it can only do so much.
It's a Band-Aid on a much larger wound.
Yes.
That we as a society need to deal with.
It probably raises costs on the movie theaters too, if they have to pay for security measures on top of everything else. You know, maybe they recoup that money because people have to buy concessions and can't sneak the sandwiches in. But, you know, it just like, yeah, it makes life tougher on them.
Did you say sneak sandwiches in?
Yeah, sneak sandwiches in.
What? I've never heard of a sandwich. That's on
I'm
another
talking
level.
like Sour Patch Kids, not like a whole sandwich.
I mean, in New York when I was much younger, I would buy like a gyro on the street and sneak that into the movie theater.
You're putting the rest of us to shame with your
Harry's
snack
living
sneaking game.
In the future, I feel like
that was a much more chaotic time in my life. But yeah.
All right. Well, pro move here. I will be sneaking a sandwich into the next movie I see.
Well, you should
Maybe
support
not
your independent movie theater by buying the savory food option. You should buy a hot dog for $10 to ensure that the movie theater stays in business.
Yeah, and if you all go see T2 at the Grand, buy that hot dog. I don't know how much it is in Tacoma, but
they also have really good popcorn.
Okay, good to know. All right, let's take a break. And when we come back, we're going to run through some of the biggest headlines of the week so far. It is time for our midweek medley, where we run through the biggest headlines of the week that we haven't had a chance to discuss yet. First up, something that I think will be relevant to Chase's interests in particular. On Tuesday, Mayor Katie Wilson met with the Seattle Film Commission. Chase, what does this mean? What does the Film Commission do? What have you heard about that meeting?
I have heard that the meeting was positive, but that it is just kind of an early introductory meeting. But the Seattle Film Commission is basically a collective of local professionals, filmmakers, business folks that are trying to advocate for film, the film experience in the region. I know at this meeting on their agenda, they also talked about the Boeing IMAX, and we're working on a statement surrounding that. But it is essentially, they just had a dialogue about the local film scene. They talked a little bit about some of the thefts that had happened of recent film equipment, but it was basically the beginning of a dialogue between them. And so it was early stages, but from what I've heard was a positive conversation that they had with the mayor when she came through.
Just trying to get the mayor up to speed on the issues that the film industry and community care about.
Yeah, and I don't know how much this was talked about, but it was interesting that this week also had more updates on Harbor Island, which I had reported on last week because I peeked in on the King County Council and how they haven't officially announced things, but Councilmember Balducci was just stopped short of saying, like, we are going in the right positive direction and should have something to announce soon. And so that will be something that the mayor obviously is not directly part of. That's more the King County Council. But there are conversations to be had about other studio space, supporting that creative economy, what can be done to bring more work here. And so I think that these types of conversations are important and good, but I know folks will be looking to see more action from government to try and hopefully support too. That words are one thing, but you want to see some of that put into action too.
I think that's interesting in the context of some reporting from a friend of the podcast, Adam Willems, who's a co-founder of Chum. Adam interviewed Katie Wilson a few weeks ago, and one thing that she mentioned was that she wants to shift Seattle's economy away from just tech. Like, she wants to try and build out other industries. So interesting that she is meeting with the Film Commission in a time where, you know, maybe she's thinking about which other industries can be built out here. All right, let's move on. Another fun little tidbit. We set a city record for Lime bike and scooter rentals last Friday. There were 83,000 trips that day. And that is more than the previous record by quite a bit. So the previous record was set on the Seahawks Parade Day when more than 60,000 people rented a Lime bike or scooter. Were you all out on Friday? I feel like it was like mass pandemonium. I'm not surprised to hear at all that we broke the record.
No, I mean, I treated it like a hurricane. I just like sheltered in place.
I'll take the more positive approach of saying I was out, but not in Seattle, because I have been enjoying just the regional environment. Because I feel like last time I was like nervous about it too, but it has been nice in that seeing community and people come out. I think even Ryan Packer had posted just like great photos of everyone coming together. I think we should keep that vibe going, with the only caveat being, and I feel like this is maybe like CityCast lore. I do remember when I was on with Hannah and she was like, the Lime scooters or Lime bikes are always coming for me. They're always recklessly driving. Don't do that. Hopefully people were being safe, but
I'm sure you telling them not to do that will mean that they don't do it, Chase.
Yes. Now I'm the like safety dad. Like, put on your helmet, be safe.
They were giving out free helmets.
Oh, that's good to hear.
Which I thought was great.
That's the big thing. Yeah, as an actual dad, which is why I wasn't going out, because my 4-year-old and 2-year-old weren't up for a trip down to Pioneer Square. But yeah, you gotta wear your helmet.
Mm-hmm. Put that helmet on. Well, our last headline is that hiking season is in full swing with all of this nice weather. And after a brutal year last year with cuts to a bunch of different government agencies that keep public lands accessible, there are finally more employees that have been hired back this season, and some that are working in partnership with nonprofits. So Greg Scruggs reported for the Seattle Times that at this time last year, popular recreation area, the Enchantments, had just one ranger for this enormous area. This year, we're going to have 3 rangers, which,
all right,
still isn't enough to really patrol that whole area, especially given how popular it is. But 3 is better than 1. Have you all been to the Enchantments?
No, but now I want to kind of see how things are going there. It sounds like it's a beloved spot.
This is the place where everyone goes to take the photos for Instagram,
yes.
Right? And it got kind of overrun.
That has been an issue for, I think, at least 10 years. I remember seeing the first pieces maybe in 2016 about, the Instagramification of the outdoors. And, it's kind of this self-feeding situation where people go and they take pictures, they post them, people want to know where it is. And I mean, I don't know if you all remember for a while when people were like posting photos, but like wouldn't say where they were taken.
To not blow up the spot.
To not blow up the spot, which
Right,
I think good intentions, but then people were like, okay, is that too gatekeepy for the outdoors? But the Enchantments, yes, gorgeous spot, has been just massively popular over the last 10 years. And you need a permit to be able to camp there overnight. They are very difficult to get. But people, as a result, have tried to either day hike there or even through hike the whole thing in one day, which is like 20-something miles and a brutal hike. But it means that the impact on that area has been very intense. Like a lot of trash left, a lot of poop to pick up from the toilets, and a lot of people who are maybe a little underprepared for the undertaking who end up needing search and rescue services. So heading into this season, it's maybe good that there's a little bit more help around, but it still seems like they're short-staffed for the popularity of that area.
I was going to say Godspeed to these 3 rangers. Sounds like they've got their work cut out for them a little bit.
Yes, bless them. I've encountered rangers out there before who basically their job is, to be a good ambassador, check on things, and also to check if people have permits. And I think last year, with one person patrolling an enormous area, it was like, good luck. I think a lot of people realized that enforcement might be lax and were using that as a reason to get out there.
Do you think then this will shift it to where there might be a decrease once they know that there's more eyes kind of around? I guess I'd be curious to see. We'll have to wait, but
yeah, we'll see. I mean, I feel the same way about it as you telling people to be safe on Lime scooters, Chase. I'm like, please don't do it. It's the right thing to do is to go through the proper channels and get a permit and make sure that this area isn't subject to overuse. But
I'm going to be positive, Chase, today and say maybe this will make it easier for people to do the right thing.
Yeah.
That people are good at heart and you just need to provide good resources and ways for them to do the right thing.
I like optimistic, Chase.
Yeah, that's very nice. I like that.
Well, Harry Cheadle, thank you so much for joining us today.
It was great. Thanks for having me.
And Chase Hutchinson, thank you for bringing your most positive attitude to the show today.
Hopefully it will last.
That's all for today here at CityCast Seattle. I'm your host, Jane Sihu. And listeners, we love hearing from you. If you're planning to head out to the Enchantments and you want to tell us what it's like out there right now, send us an email at seattle@citycast.fm. You can also text us or leave us a voicemail on the CityCast hotline at 206-880-3931. Until next time, see you, Seattle.